The polished conference table in Pentagon Ring E trembled faintly as 12 senior officers argued over a breach no one was willing to claim. Voices collided, tempers flared, and the air grew heavy with urgency and ego. No one noticed the side door open. Elise Rowan entered quietly, carrying a plain metal tray of tea. There were no ranks on her sleeves, no insignia, just a small woman moving with the kind of silence people ignore every day. Admiral Patrick Hale spotted her first and smirked loudly. Did catering get lost again? Captain Lucas Trent leaned back in his chair, chuckling. Wrong room, sweetheart. This is the serious end of the building. Colonel David Riker didn't bother lowering his voice. How does random staff even get into an alpha-level briefing? Someone fix this. Laughter rippled around the table. Dismissive gestures followed. Elise didn't react. Her steps were controlled, balanced. Precise nothing the room registered as unusual, except for Sergeant Mason Cole standing against the far wall. His eyes narrowed. Her posture wasn't support staff. It was combat discipline masked as quiet service. Elise Rowan looked like someone no one would remember once the room emptied. Small, quiet, dressed in a plain service uniform without a single mark of rank. Her sleeves were rolled just enough to show her wrists. Shoulders squared, but relaxed. Her movements were soft and measured, as if she refused to disturb the air itself. She carried the tray with both hands, not from need, but because it allowed her to maintain perfect control. No medals, no badges. It's nothing that hinted at who she truly was to the officers. She was invisible. 2 younger Marine captains whispered that she must have wandered into the wrong wing. One joked she probably thought alpha-level briefing meant coffee refills. Another muttered that she didn't belong anywhere near a room where wars were discussed. The assumptions came easily. She looked ordinary, unthreatening, carrying tea instead of classified folders. But Elise was anything but ordinary. Her eyes tracked every movement in the room, not timidly, but deliberately. She didn't stare. She didn't react. She simply recorded everything. Who leaned back too confidently? Who tapped nervously? Who avoided eye contact? Who held their breath when certain locations were mentioned? That awareness came from years, spent in places where missing a single detail meant never seeing another sunrise. When Afghanistan was mentioned, her breathing changed so subtly no one noticed. No one except someone trained to read micro-reactions. For a fraction of a second, her gaze hardened before disappearing behind calm restraint. Her left hand shifted toward her hip, fingers relaxing and tightening in the exact tension pattern of a close-quarters draw. Half a heartbeat. Gone. She placed a cup in front of Major Carter Briggs, who barely looked up. Then Captain Trent accidentally nudged his cup. Coffee spilled across the polished surface. Elise moved before anyone else. She didn't blot the spill like a server. She contained it, isolating the liquid with precise folds. Controlling the spread like hazardous material, Briggs's eyebrows lifted. That wasn't hospitality training. That was field hazmat protocol from forward operating bases. Sergeant Cole noticed even more. From his corner, he watched her map the room without appearing 2 exits, angles, blind spots, sight lines. She knew where every officer stood, where the cameras pointed, where cover could be taken if everything went sideways. Cole had seen this before. Downrange, seconds, for chaos. Something about her unsettled him, not suspicion, but certainty that the room had judged her wrong. Elise continued placing cups, expression calm, breathing steady. Inside, she carried 7 names. She didn't speak. She never did in moments like this. Faces, voices, men who had trusted her with their lives. Their final breaths echoed in the quietest corners of her mind. Their weight pressed against her ribs every time she stood among people who didn't know or didn't care what their decisions cost. She had learned grief wasn't weakness. It was armor as long as it stayed locked tight. She didn't flinch when mocked. She didn't respond when dismissed. She wasn't there to defend herself. She wasn't there to be seen. She wasn't even there to serve tea. She was there for justice. Real justice for teammates who never came home. Her posture wasn't submission. It was restraint, control, patience. Sharpened to a blade the day she walked into the Pentagon. As staff wasn't the day she disappeared into the background. It was the day she began hunting the truth. The briefing began with a folder slamming onto the table. Focus, Admiral Hale barked, standing at the head of the room. His metals caught the overhead light as he pointed to a map of eastern Afghanistan. This wasn't a normal meeting. A catastrophic breach had cost American lives, and the Pentagon was scrambling. Yet Hale's irritation drifted back to the quiet woman beside him. Why is she still here? He snapped. Do we have no protocol anymore? Eyes followed his glare to Elise. She kept her gaze down, placing a cup beside General Isaac Monroe. Captain Trent snorted. Maybe she's moonlighting as intel support. Budget cuts, right? A few officers laughed. Support staff should stick to coffee, Monroe added. She doesn't need to hear classified discussions. Exactly, Hale said. Get her out of here. Elise continued her route with perfect rhythm. Trent shoved his cup deliberately. Coffee spilled toward her. Oops, he said, leaning back. Let's see how fast she reacts. Bet she runs for towels, Riker added. Like a scared rabbit. Before anyone else moved, Elise contained the spill. Precise, flawless, controlled. Like a medic handling a biological hazard under fire. Trent's grin faded. Riker's smirk vanished. Monroe frowned. Impressive, Hale said dryly. But leave the military reflexes at home. An easy laughter followed. Elise finished, stepped back to the wall, and waited. Then the map zoomed in. Counter-sniper evidence here, Hale said. Approximately 2,400 meters, Elise said quietly. The room froze. Briggs turned sharply. That's correct. Not 2,000. How did you know? Elevation and wind patterns in that region, sir. Silence fell. Cole felt a chill. He accessed the clearance database, Rowan. Elise M. Clearance level. 5 Inspector General active access. Above 3 officers present. His breath caught. Sir, Cole said carefully, we have a situation. She has level 5 clearance. Higher than yours? Higher than Captain Trent's? Higher than Colonel Riker's? Silence slammed into the room. Elise didn't move. Didn't explain. Didn't acknowledge the shift. She had always known this moment would come. The briefing continued. Strained when Hale opened the casualty report, Elise's posture changed. Subtle, but unmistakable. Squared stance. Protective positioning. We lost 7 operators, Hale said. Off-book unit. 3 infantry. Elise murmured. 1 medic. 1 signals. 1 demolitions. 1 sniper. The room froze again. She wasn't guessing, Briggs realized. She was remembering. A glimpse of black ink showed at her wrist-clean lines. Cold geometry. A rifle stock. Hale snapped his folder shut. We will not take input from support staff. Elise said nothing. The map showed a narrow valley. The medic was hit first, she whispered. Then Hale said it. Shadow Team 9. Elise flinched barely. A tightening jaw. A flicker of pain. Cole recognized it instantly. Recognition, loss, truth. Hale continued. Unaware. We believe the leak came from inside this building. Asterisk. That was why the briefing had been restricted. The door slid open with a quiet hiss. Director. James Chen stepped inside without papers. Without entourage, just a calm presence that immediately altered the balance of the room. He wore a simple suit instead of a uniform. Yet his authority pressed into the space as firmly as any row of medals ever could. Admiral Hale paused mid-sentence, clearly caught off guard. Director Chen, he said, forcing composure. We didn't expect you personally, Chen offered a thin, knowing smile. I prefer to be present when things actually matter. He moved slowly along the side of the table, his gaze passing over each officer in turn. Hale. Monroe, Riker, Trent, Briggs, Hayes. When his eyes reached Elise, something changed. For the first time since she had entered the room, someone did not see a server. Chen gave her a slight nod, not dismissive, but respectful, the kind reserved for a colleague. Elise returned the gesture with an almost imperceptible dip of her chin. Most of the officers missed it. Almost Trent frowned. "Sir, do you know her?" Chen didn't answer directly. "I know who is supposed to be in this room," he said evenly, "and she is exactly where she belongs." Confusion thickened around the table. Hayes's analytical mind began quietly connecting dots. Briggs felt the foundation of his assumptions shift beneath him. Riker swallowed hard, as if invisible pressure had closed around his throat. Cole watched closely and, then something clicked. He remembered Elise near secure communications weeks earlier, carrying boxes. Another time in a maintenance corridor with a badge that didn't quite match. Recently in the cafeteria, dressed in plain clothes, listening far more than eating. Different disguises. Same posture. Same eyes. She hadn't just appeared today. She had been moving through the Pentagon for months, quietly. Deliberately, like a ghost wearing borrowed faces. The room felt it now. Even if no one spoke it aloud, her clearance. Her reflexes. Her reaction to the name Shadow Team 9. The way the CIA director acknowledged her as an equal. Unease settled heavily. Pressing down on every shoulder, Admiral Hale finally snapped. "Enough," he muttered, standing abruptly. His chair scraped sharply as he rounded the table. "I'm done with this game." Elise didn't move. Her stance remained calm, balanced, unreadable. Hale didn't notice the warning signs the way Briggs watched closely. The way Cole stepped forward without realizing it. The way Chen stopped mid-motion. Hale grabbed her wrist. The single, careless action changed everything. Her sleeve slid back. Just enough to expose black ink beneath clean, deliberate lines forming the unmistakable silhouette of an M21 sniper rifle. Below it were hash marks, coordinates, mission symbols. Not decoration. Documentation. Earned through real deployments. Real kills. Real losses. The room froze. Briggs stared as if the breath had been knocked from his chest. He recognized the rifle. He recognized the markings. And more than that, he recognized the way she didn't flinch. Chen's chin lifted slightly, his eyes meeting Elise's in quiet acknowledgement. He had always known. Cole moved instinctively, half raising a hand. Every nerve in his body screamed that a line had just been crossed. Hale scoffed, still unaware. "And what exactly is your rank, server?" No one laughed. Elise lifted her eyes. Calm, lethal calm. "My rank," she said softly, "is the one you failed to check." Hale released her wrist as if burned. She lowered her arm, the sleeve falling back into place, but the truth had already been burned into the room. Trent's pen slipped from his fingers and clattered across the table like a warning shot. Riker went pale. Monroe sat frozen. No one spoke. "I am not support staff," Elise said quietly. "I was placed in this building by the Inspector General's office 6 months ago." No one breathed. "My assignment was to identify the source of the leak that compromised Shadow Team 9. Hale blinked. "You know about them?" "I was there." Shock rippled across the room. All 7 operators were reported. Briggs whispered. 7 were killed, Elise corrected calmly. "Not 8. The silence cracked. "I am the sole survivor of Shadow Team 9. Gasps broke out. Chairs creaked. Someone cursed under their breath. "The ambush was not random," Elise continued. "The enemy had exact coordinates, movement schedules, loadouts. That intelligence came from inside this building." Chen's voice cut in with quiet finality. "She has spent the last 6 months tracing that leak." Elise looked around the table. "I listened. I observed. I recorded. And not one of you saw me as anything but a server." "That truth landed hard. That," she said softly, "is why I was chosen." The room collapsed. Inward, under the weight of realization, then Chen stood. "Master? Sergeant Elise Rowan is here by my authorization." Title hit like a hammer. Before anyone could react, the door opened again. Agent Olivia Ward entered with FBI counterintelligence and NSA internal security. The briefing became an investigation in a single breath. 15 security violations documented, Ward said, placing a folder on the table. Multiple instances of classified material mishandled, and proof, Chen added, that someone in this room leaked the coordinates that killed Shadow Team 9. The agents secured the room. Elise remained silent. Riker broke first. I did it, he whispered. I leaked the coordinates. I told myself it was nothing, just numbers. You didn't leak numbers, Elise said evenly. You leaked lives. Riker collapsed under the truth. This wasn't isolated, Elise added. 7 officers across 3 commands. Debts, weaknesses exploited. The room reeled. Admiral Hale stood slowly, visibly shaken. Then, with unsteady breath, he saluted her. One by one. The others followed. Elise did not accept their admiration. Please don't, she said quietly. My team didn't die for praise. She folded the paper with the names of her fallen teammates and tucked it back into her pocket near her heart. Justice is all they deserved. Chen nodded. Ward stepped forward. We need to move. Then let's finish it, Elise replied. She walked out surrounded by investigators. Her steps steady, purposeful, behind her. The officers remained standing, changed, humbled, silent. The narrator's voice settled over the scene. Never mistake silence for weakness. Some battles are fought long before a salute is given. Some heroes walk unnoticed, carrying burdens heavier than any uniform reveals. Elise Rowan was one of them.